Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief at USA Today. Karine, Jean-Pierre, Senior Advisor, spokesperson for MoveOn.org, and Hugh Hewitt, MSNBC political analyst and host of the Hugh Hewitt radio show. And Susan, I will start with you. We laid out sort of a blue state version there and a red state narrative of these Trump numbers. I'm wondering if one of those rings a little bit more accurate to you.
Well, I think it's important that Donald Trump's supporters have remained so loyal to him. That's been very sturdy, his support among people who voted for him. But it's got to be troubling to the White House that he has failed to expand his support to anybody who didn't vote for him. And, you know, this is a time of a presidency where his support should be higher, where it ought to be a time when people have been willing to take a look at him, give him a chance, let him try to deliver. So I think it gets harder to do that as time goes on. And you know what else? Having these low approval ratings makes it harder for him to get things through Congress, harder to hold Republicans and win over any Democrats, and that affects his approval rating down the road as well. It's a cycle.
Yeah, Hugh Hewitt, if the strategy here that the Trump White House is following is basically, you know, we're not going to try to make the sort of conciliatory moves that past presidents have made early on to take advantage for the possibility of a honeymoon. If the strategy here really is keep that base, it was a very narrow margin, but it was enough to win in 2016. Keep that base for 4 years, you'll get reelected. Is that a viable strategy?
Yes, it is. I think the most interesting number in both polls was the rerun election, 43% for President Trump, 40% for Secretary Clinton. I think that the country is frozen into the two tribes of red and blue, and that the most important thing in 2 years in 2018 and in 4 years in 2020 will be jobs, jobs, jobs. And I saw today President Trump promising a 15% corporate rate. That's a very important deal. He won big with Neil Gorsuch. He has not moved the repeal and replacement of Obamacare, but they're going to try and resuscitate that. And most importantly, he's changed America's posture in the world. President Obama was known for the red line and the JVs and the leading from behind. That's not what President Trump is known for. He's known for the Moab, the Syrian cruise missile strike, and the carrier group off the North Korean peninsula. Quite a change, and I think he likes those numbers, 43-40.
Yeah, and Karine, I wonder about that. You look at that 43-40 finding on, hey, if the election were held again. I wonder if that gives you any sense of a deja vu or a flashback. You think of the campaign, Democrats on Election Day thought, oh, Trump ran this terrible campaign. Look at those awful numbers. He's going to lose. They hold the vote. He wins. He's had some rough headlines, certainly some rough poll numbers these first 100 days, and then you see that poll. Is there a dynamic here from before the election that maybe just hasn't changed?
But Steve, here's the problem here. The problem is that his support is small, but it's also shrinking. Let's not forget about those independent numbers. That NBC poll showed that he was losing independents by double digits, by 23%. That is not where he wants to be right now. This should be, just echoing what Susan said, this should be his high point right now. But it seems to be his lowest point. Like, where is he going to go from here if he continues to talk to the very same base that elected him, that small, shrinking base? Every tweet, every policy, every speech has been focused on that 46% that elected him, and that is not the way to go when it's your first 100 days.
When you talk about the idea here of expanding that base, one of the issues certainly after the election, people looked at where Donald Trump won, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Rust Belt. People said infrastructure. Here's something he seemed interested in. Here's something Democrats potentially seemed interested in. Maybe that would be the compromise. Haven't seen it yet, but here's what Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in the Senate, had to say today.
We sent him an infrastructure plan. This was an area everyone thought we would work on. Yeah. Democrats, the whole caucus, Bernie Sanders to Joe Manchin supported this proposal. Haven't heard a peep in 2 months.
Susan Page, what do you think? Is Chuck Schumer or the Democrats likely to hear a peep in the next few months on this?
Well, you know, there is some second guessing even inside the White House about whether they did the right thing by pursuing health care. First, maybe infrastructure or the tax bill would have been a better thing to start out with. But just back to Hugh's point, if you don't mind, the trouble that Donald Trump has, he's no longer running against Hillary Clinton. It doesn't matter that he would edge out Hillary Clinton 43-40. He's running against himself. He's the president. He's in charge. So the case that he needs to make is that he can govern, he can lead, he can deliver on his promises. And if he does that, he'll do just fine. But if he doesn't do that, it doesn't matter that he can once again defeat Hillary.